Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be unto you. We have finished ayah number 31 last time from Surah An-Noor, Surah number 24. And today we are resuming from ayah number 32 because the ayat in Surah An-Noor, ayat AY 80, are talking about the social order. The previous ayah 31, talked about whom could a woman expose part of her beauty and how far based on the intimacy of the relationship. And we went over this last time, so we could go back to this session. Now, ayah number 32 is giving another order. It says, and marry the unmarried among you. And this order is meant that the guardian, the parents, should help their unmarried dependents to get married. And in this, the Quran encourages marriage, not celibacy. Because in Islam, there is no such a thing as celibacy. So much so that some scholars have said that if somebody says, I don't want to get married, his guardian could compel him to marry. But some others said because marriage is not a compulsory issue like prayer or fasting, it is just the nature of humans to get married. They say it is subject to everybody's freedom. But the society as a whole should never encourage celibacy. And there is no class to be classified as celibate this or celibate that. Everybody must get married unless they have an issue. Like they cannot mate with the other gender or they cannot finance a family. But the order means if money is the issue, provide the resources for the unmarried so that they get married. And also help the righteous ones among your servants to get married, whether they are males or females. And if they are poor, Allah will provide for them from His bounties. And Allah is vast in resources, fully knowledgeable of everyone. So this ayah is saying, support financially those unmarried members in the society financially so that they are able to establish family and lead a normal life. So here in America, you don't think that there are people who would like to get married, but they don't have resources. And that may be true in some cases, in the vast majority of cases, because there is no huge prerequisites financially on marriage in this country. If you have credit, you could rent the place, you could pay the rent, you could pay the food, then you are mostly ready to get married. But if you look at the vast majority of societies in Africa, in the Far East, in the Middle East, you will find that economic restraints and economic conditions are a real problem. And the vast majority of people over there, they don't get married until they reach ages like 30, 35, 40. And this is a huge problem because the later a woman marries, the less chance she will have children. And the less number of children she is able to have. So that limits the society's, reproductivity and raising children and so on and so forth. So the Quran is drawing our attention to this issue by telling us, help the unmarried ones get married. Then ayah number 33, it talks about something related. It says, let those who do not find the means to get married, let them live a chaste life, a clean life. And this is a clear instruction that there is no sexual relationship before marriage. So the Quran is talking to those who could not marry because of financial resources or otherwise other circumstances to live a chaste, dignified life, not a life of obscenity and sex outside of the marriage. Until when? The ayah says, until Allah provides for them. So now it is clear that the two ayahs are talking about financial resources as a duty to support those who don't have those means so that they are able to get married. When the Muslim treasuries were full of money beyond the needs, the normal needs of the poor and the helpless and so on and so forth, the caliph would spend that money to support those who want to get married, but they don't have financial resources until everybody is married. It shows you how important it is, the marriage and the family as institutions for any community. And then it goes on to say, as far as those servants or slaves of yours, among the ones that, excuse me, so it says, as far as those servants or what your right hand possessed, if they want to contract with you for their freedom, then if you know that they are good people who would fulfill this commitment, then contract with them. What is a contract? Contract to set them free. And this is one of the ways that Islam worked out to set slaves free. The other one, to dry the pool of slavery, the Prophet, peace be upon him, says in a hadith, if anyone enslaves a free person, he would never smell the smell of paradise. So enslaving free people is absolutely prohibited. Some people talk about slavery as an Islamic invention, but slavery was norm in all wars and kidnapping. Raiding and kidnapping slaves from other communities was norm in the Persian Empire, the Indian Empire, the Greek Empire, the Roman Empire, all those empires and others. It was norm to raid and attack, kidnap slaves, take them, and they are yours. The Prophet says you could never enslave a free person. We know that a story from the slavery of Africans by the American experience in the past 2 centuries. It was that they would go to Africa, kidnap them, chain them into the ships, and bring them here to work in the farms. And to illustrate this, there is a movie that is made. It's called Prince Among Slaves. You could search it on the internet. And it gives you a story of an African prince who was kidnapped from his tribe, maybe among other slaves as well, who was brought here and he was forced to work as a slave in Georgia. That is a story that illustrates what Islam stood against from the beginning. 1400 years. And the Prophet says, never enslave a free person. So the way out for those who were enslaved already, whether through war or through other means, kidnapping, then if they want to contract themselves out of slavery, like how much do you want so that you set me free? And the master would say, I need that much. Then he says, I will go out and work and pay you. So until he pays off himself, then he is set free. So the Quran says, you have no choice. If you know that this man or this person is honest and trustworthy to pay you off, then contract with him, let him pay you, and let him set himself free. One of the other ways that the Quran set as means to set slaves free is making it a punishment for those who have false swearing, for those who swear and they want to go back in their swearing, and many other punishments, then setting a neck free, as it is called in the Quran, freeing or setting a slave free, that becomes the way out as expiation for that kind of retraction of swearing or the sin. So one of the ways of setting slaves free that are mentioned in the Quran itself is the fact that you either contract them out of slavery or that you set them free as expiation of certain list of sins that if you commit, then the punishment is an expiation by setting a slave free. So here it goes. And those who would like to contract with you among your slaves, what your right hand possessed, then contract with them if you know they are good people to pay you back. Not only that, and give them from the wealth that Allah has given you. So I'm not only setting him free, I'm giving him money to sustain himself and his family if he has a family. It's an amazing system to deal with the issue of slavery. And provide for them from the wealth that Allah has provided for you, and do not coerce your female servants or slaves to commit to prostitution if they want to get married. Because in the past, before Islam, people who have slaves and they don't have any use for them, they send them and commit them to prostitution, and they get money from that prostitution, and the money goes to the master because she is a slave. She doesn't even have her own money. Islam, this is not the way it should be. Help them get married is what Islam is telling us. So don't force them to prostitute if they want to get married and to be chaste, or at least if they don't want to commit to prostitution. Even if she doesn't want to get married right now, leave her alone. Don't force her to prostitute to make money out of her. And if some of you had already done that, Allah, after you had coerced them, is going to accept your repentance and forgive you and shower you with His mercy. So, as far as those who have done this with their slaves before the revelation of the ayah, The Quran is saying Allah is all forgiving, of merciful, but quit and stop. Don't do it again. Then ayah number 34, and most certainly we have sent down unto you ayat mubayyinat, which means clear signs, evidence, and verses, and an example of those who preceded before you, and an admonishment to those among you who are pious.
Admonishment or punishment?
Admonishment. Admonishment means advice. The difference between admonishment and advice. Advice is a theoretical lesson. Admonishment is a lesson with a sense of inspiration. The next ayah number 35, is an ayah after which the surah was given the name An-Noor. And I want you to pay attention to this ayah. It talks about the light of Allah. The word An-Noor means the light. This ayah describes the light of Allah by giving an example of what this light is like. Okay? So let us listen carefully. It says, Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. The example of His light is like that of a lamp in a niche. And that niche has a lamp, and the lamp is in a glass. And the glass is like a planet that is shining, that is ignited or lit by oil from a blessed tree, an olive tree, neither eastern nor western, the oil of which is so much lit that even if it is not lit with fire, it shines light, it radiates light. Then it goes on to say, light upon light, God guides to His light whom He wills, and Allah gives those examples for people, and Allah is fully aware of everything. Let me explain this again. Did you get the point? I'm asking.
No.
Did you get the point?
Can you explain it again?
Yeah, I will explain it. I just wanted to make sure. So, it says, Allah is the light of heavens and earth.
Got that.
This should not be subjected to our own imagination, what it says. And it should not be reversed to express the difference. Meaning, you could not say, since the Quran says Allah is the light of heavens and earth, then you could say the light of the heaven is the sun. Because the sun is not in the heaven altogether. The sun is only a star that is running close by here, only 93 million years away. 93 million miles, I'm sorry. So, Allah is the light of heavens and earth. The example of His light, or the example of this light, is like a niche that has a lamp. Do you know what a niche is? In old buildings, you don't have a window just like this. The window will be set with a niche behind it, and the niche itself will have window. Yes, and it is curved from the outside. This is called a niche. And in old days, people used to have oil lamps, not electric lamps. A lamp that you lit with oil. Okay? Are you familiar with that lamp?
Yeah.
Okay. So that lamp is in a glass.
Mhm.
And the glass seems like a radiating planet that is lit from a blessed tree, a tree of oil, neither eastern nor western, which means it doesn't grow in the far east, it doesn't grow in the far west. And its oil radiates light even if it is not touched with fire. It is light upon light. God guides to His light whom He wills. And Allah gives those examples for people, and Allah is fully knowledgeable of everything. What do we benefit from this lesson? Don't be deceived to translate this that Allah is light. But Allah creates light. And the light He creates is what is the example is trying to explain to us. And the examples are given not for comparison, but for illustrations, just to show us sample of, or not similarity, but a sample that will bring the reality close to understanding. Because Allah is unlike any of His creations. You read this clearly in the Quran. لَيْسَ كَمِثْلِهِ شَيْءٍ. There is nothing like unto Him. There is nothing and none are equal to Him. So the example is given here for people just to give them an idea. If this is the light that comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then what about Allah Himself? You cannot imagine Allah, because Allah is not a thing, Allah is not a big human, Allah is whatever you imagine is not Allah, because our imagination is limited by our experience. And whatever we experience is only subject to be tangible and material, because that's where our experience is. But beyond materials, we cannot experience what we do not see and what we have never seen. So Muslim scholars would say, whatever comes to your imagination about Allah, Allah is different. Okay. Then it goes on to say, ayah number 36, in houses that Allah has ordered to be raised up, to be built. It's referring to the houses of worship. In houses. So the light that Allah is now talking about is not the light of a lamp or anything like this. It is the light of the guidance, and that's why the ayah at the end says, light upon light, God guides to his light whomever he wills. So the ayah definitely is talking about the light of guidance. So why is it described as a light? Why is guidance described as a light? Why is it called light? Because in the darkness we do not see. Likewise, without the guidance of Allah, we do not see. So, in houses that Allah has commanded to be raised and built, in which His name is proclaimed, in which people praise Him in the early times of the day and at the late times of the day. He is praised by men, meaning people, who are not distracted by business or sale from the remembrance of Allah. They are not distracted from establishing prayer and giving zakah. They fear a day when the hearts are turning upside down and the visions. You know, when you are in a state of panic, your heart will be pumping a lot, and you will feel that your chest is pounding, and it becomes difficult. So Allah is saying, the fear of that day will cause the hearts to tremble, to pound, to turn upside down. Likewise, the eyes will be turning around out of fear of what is going to happen to us on that day. Then those people who would fear Allah in this life, Allah will reward them for whatever they have done according to the best they have done. Amazing. What is your best? Some people's best is charitable giving. Some people's best is volunteering their time. Some people's best is sharing their knowledge. Some people's best is putting effort to help someone else. Some people's best is they give shelter to people who don't have shelter, or food to those who are hungry, or teach the unlearned. So on the day of judgment, if these people do this for the sake of Allah, Allah will reward them according to the best they have done. He's not going to take the average. And it goes on to say, and Allah provides whom He wills without account. It is without account, and it could also translate into without counting. Do you know when Allah gives without counting? Let me give you a simple example. When you give without counting, you definitely give more than when you count. And that's why in the hadith it says, 7 will be covered in the shade given them by Allah when there is no shade but the shade given by Allah, which means on the day of judgment, 7 classes or groups of people will be shaded under that shade. Among them is a person who spent his money so secretly that his left hand doesn't know what his right hand has given. Which means what? When we want to count money, the two hands participate, right? If you want to count. So you have, let us say, uh, 20 bills, each is $20. And somebody saying, I need some help, right? So 20 times 20, that's 400. So you say, I have $400. I want to give him 100. So what do? You get the 400 pack from your pocket, and then you start counting. When you start counting, your left hand helps your right hand to count, right? And you will divide the money. Some will be in one hand, some will be in the other hand, right? But if you want to be multiply generous, abundantly generous, what do? You hold the pack of $400, right? And you give it to him, and your left hand does not participate, which means it wouldn't know what the right hand has already given. It's an amazing example of generosity. So Allah here is saying Allah provides whom He wills without counting is one meaning, and without account, which means without asking Him, without questioning Him. If He wants to give someone, He either would give him without holding him to account, or will give him without counting. So when Allah gives without counting, you could imagine now how generous that giving is. It's unlimited. Then ayah number 39, it says, as for those who disbelieved and rejected faith, their deeds are like a mirage. The mirage is in a low, level area in the ground, that if you see it from far, you think that area has water because of the radiation of the heat of the sun, right? But once they reach there, they find nothing. It's just a low area in the ground that the shade made it look like different, and you think it's water because you are so thirsty in the desert. So their deeds will be like that mirage. They think they are doing well. They think they are doing great. They think that what they have done, of whatever, is going to be recorded and counted for them. But in reality, when they get there in the hereafter, they will discover it is nothing but a mirage. It's only in their own head. And there they will only find none but Allah and nothing else. And when they find Allah, Allah will repay them their account, which means their punishment for rejecting Allah despite all the signs. So, what is this example? The example is drawing our attention to the fact that those who believe, they have their eyes focusing on whatever they think they are doing, and they think it's good. I'm a good human being. I'm a great person. I'm even better than those who believe. They think of themselves and their works. Okay? But the same eyes are blinded when it comes to the evidence and the signs that Allah shows us in life, in the universe, in nature, in ourselves. So they are only focusing on their deeds, but they are not focusing on what Allah has displayed of science in the universe and inside ourselves. So when they get there, they will find nothing of that. They will find Allah, and Allah will recompensate them for whatever they have done. And Allah is swift in account. Somebody asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, peace be upon him, and he said, how could Allah stand those billions upon billions of people to account? This must be endless. How could He talk to all of them and hold them to account? And Allah sent down the ayah saying that Allah is swift in account. Then He asked it again, but how can He account everyone individually when they are in the billions, maybe trillions, by the day of judgment? And the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, as He is providing for all of them all at once, as He creates billions of them all at once, He will account all of them, put all of them to account all at once. He is not distracted by paying attention to one person, not to listen to the other. So you see that the world today has about 7-8 billion people, right? Mostly half of them would be asleep, half of them will be awake, because the day and the night are divided around the earth. So Allah takes care of those who are up, and He takes care of those who are asleep. Right? Those who are in bed, they may be 100, 200, 500 people in one and the same hotel, all of them in bed. Maybe 2, 3 people are in one and the same room. Each is on his or her bed. Maybe 2 are on the same bed, but each one has a different dream, a different experience. So Allah is the one who gives us those experiences. Allah is the one who gives us the capacity to breathe individually and not to affect each other, right? Your neighbor may have stomach pain, but you don't have to suffer for your neighbor. Your stomach is okay, right? Maybe you have headache, but your neighbor doesn't have headache. Maybe you have a problem. Your neighbor or your brother doesn't have a problem. You are worried about something, he's worried about something else. Who is managing for all of us all of this other than the one who created all of us? I was just talking yesterday about the explanation of Surah by the name Tabarak. The first Surah in part number 29. And it talks about the stars as rockets launched against the devils who used to go up to heaven trying to peek, see or peek, hear what is going on in heaven. So those meteorites and those light tails that fly in the sky are thrown against them to punish them for their attempt to spy on the sky, what's going on in the upper heavens. So I was saying that only in our solar system, we are counting distances by the millions of miles. Our moon is about maybe 250,000 miles away. Imagine the globe, the earth, is 24 miles sphere. 24 miles. Multiply this by 10, and it is 250,000 miles between us and the moon. Between us and the sun, 93 million miles. Imagine in the solar system, Pluto, which is the last one in the orbit around the sun, How many million miles will it be away from the sun?
Maybe trillions of miles.
No, nobody could tell. But let's go on. This is only our solar system, which means one star surrounded by 9, 10 planets. Like our solar system, there are billions of solar systems in our galaxy. The Milky Way galaxy that we are part of, it has millions, billions upon billions of suns like ours, bigger or smaller. Billions with a B. This is one galaxy. In the universe, the estimate is that there are billions of galaxies like ours. Then all of these galaxies together, what do? They are just one part of the universe, like which there are billions of other parts. Those galaxies together, they are called constellation, and there are billions of constellations that science is telling us about today that is unimaginable, let alone it could never be accounted for. We could never wrap our head around this creation. In the sea, every single day, 27,000 species disappear, and 27,000 new species are created every day. This is amazing. So when you say Allah provides without account to whom He wills, this giving is unlike any other. Then ayah number 40, it says, these are the deeds of the disbelievers. In ayah number 39, they are given the example of a mirage, imagined water in the desert, which is nothing. Then ayah number 40, it says, or else it is like darkness in a troubled sea or ocean that is covered with waves from the top and waves from the top of the top, and then clouds on top of all of that. What is the ayah talking about? The ayah is talking about waves inside the sea, below the surface. We know the waves on the top of the sea. That these are waves that influence us when we sail in the sea. But underneath that set of waves on the top, there are waves inside the ocean, underneath. There are rivers running under the oceans, streams, very powerful. So it is describing the works of the disbelievers, like waves, on top of it are other waves, and then you have the clouds on the top of the earth itself. So it says, if a person in those dark waves area underneath the ocean, beneath the lower level of waves, it becomes so dark that if a person is down there, puts his hand up, he could not see it out of darkness. We know that the ocean could be tens and in some places hundreds of miles down. The bottom is so deep, so it becomes so dark because where does the light come to the ocean, inside the ocean? The light comes from the sun, but it has to penetrate through the air, then through the top layers of the water, and when the waves are high, that light gets broken, right? The light rays get broken. And when it gets down there, all the way below, it is completely pitch dark. You could see nothing. So the works of the disbelievers are described here as that nothing that you couldn't see in the lowest deck of the ocean. So we have here two examples for the works of the disbeliever. It's either gonna be like a mirage in the desert that looks like water from a distance, but then when you get close, you find nothing. Or like something you go down the ocean to look for, and when you get down trying to look for it, you find nothing because of the darkness. Then the ayah number 40 concludes by saying, and he who is not given light from God, he has no light. He who is not given light by Allah, and as we explained here, light here means guidance. So anyone who rejects the guidance of Allah will have no guidance, will have no light, and what he sees is only either a mirage or nothing, according to these two examples given in ayah number 39 and ayah number 40. So we'll stop here today, and inshallah next time we'll pick up from ayah number 41. Okay.